At first, everyone thought it was just an ordinary infectious disease, but as the death toll skyrocketed, things quickly got out of control. What's even more terrifying is that those who died from the infection began to come back to life, attacking people in the streets with no reason. Their grotesque appearances were no different from the zombies we've seen in the movies. Now, for zombie movie fans, this kind of plot might sound a bit familiar. Nothing new, nothing exciting. But the Philippines offered something refreshing and different with a hidden gem, Day Zero, because anyone who was bitten also became part of the virus that spread like wildfire. One person infected 10, 10 infected 100, and in no time the entire city was in chaos. Even maximum security prisons couldn't escape the outbreak. A loud, piercing alarm jolted the prisoners from their sleep. Then suddenly, someone burst into the cell block shouting, "The warden has opened the doors! We're free to go home!" Confused but hopeful, the inmates ran toward the exit, only to freeze in terror at what awaited them outside. A horde of zombies was charging down the corridor. Within seconds, several prisoners were overwhelmed and torn apart. Timo and Emon were about to leave when they stood frozen by the horrifying scene before them. Before they could process what was happening, one of the bitten guards suddenly mutated. Its teeth elongated as it lunged straight at them. Timo panicked, stumbling backward, practically about to soil himself, but Emon reacted instantly. He grabbed the zombie, slammed it to the ground with a textbook takedown, and strangled it. Then, as calmly as ever, he reached for the handcuffs dangling from the zombie's belt, and with a few quick moves, had the mutated guard fully restrained. It turned out Mono was just another prisoner, formerly a Special Forces operative, imprisoned after a mission went wrong and someone got hurt. But now, with bloodthirsty zombies roaming the halls as everyone else ran for their lives, Emon kept his cool and chose to fight his way out, landing clean, powerful blows that crushed zombies one after another, each strike perfectly placed, each movement sharp and decisive. Inspired by Emon's bravery, Timo slowly found the courage to join the fight. While Emon cleared the path ahead, Timo followed behind, taking down any stragglers. After a brutal, bloody battle, the two finally managed to escape the prison. But what awaited them outside was even worse. The number of zombies was astonishing. Even the prison transport driver had turned. Without hesitation, Emon dragged the zombified driver from the vehicle, and the two of them climbed into the front seats. Emon floored the accelerator, tires screeching, and they sped away from the nightmare they'd just escaped. Only when they reached a relatively safe spot did they finally stop to catch their breath. At that moment, Emon, overwhelmed by worry for his family, quickly pulled out his phone and tried calling his wife. But no one answered. What he didn't know was that, not long before, his apartment had already been overrun by zombies. A sinking feeling hit him. His wife and daughter were probably in grave danger. Losing no time, he decided to head home immediately. With nowhere else to go, Timo had no choice but to accompany him. Along the way, they listened to the car radio, piecing together fragments of what was happening outside. The streets were a disaster, completely deserted, filled with an eerie silence. At one point, they came upon a barricade clearly set up to keep zombies out. With no way through, Emon had to detour. After some effort, they finally arrived at the base of Emon's apartment building, only to find the main entrance completely swarmed by zombies. Luckily, Emon remembered a small back door leading to the basement. He opened it quickly. Timo, ever considerate, grabbed a couple of shirts hanging nearby. They were still wearing prison uniforms, hardly the ideal attire for reuniting with family. Once they changed, the two began to creep cautiously through the basement, but what they found downstairs stopped them in their tracks. The basement, pitch black, was filled with crouching zombies. Their bodies twisted erratically. Their posture was unsettling and unnatural. Strangely, when Iman's flashlight beam passed over them, they didn't react at all, like phones stuck in standby mode. Iman signaled to Timo to remain absolutely silent, and the two began to advance slowly with extreme caution. But the basement was too dark, and despite their best efforts, Timo accidentally knocked something over. The loud crash reverberated through the space, instantly rousing the horde. Panic seized them as the undead screamed and charged toward the noise. Emon and Timo rushed out and hid in a dark corner just in time. After a tense moment when the coast was clear, they pressed on. Their goal was the 7th floor, Iman's apartment. The real danger was just beginning. As they climbed, the lighting improved, but so did the tension. The hallways were narrow and claustrophobic, with zombies scattered everywhere. Fortunately, with the skills they'd acquired moments before, the two now moved confidently, zigzagging through the undead with fluid, careful movements. Just when it seemed they might make it without trouble, Iman noticed something odd. Movement inside a trash bin, hidden in the hallway. Looking in, he was stunned to find a child hiding there. Iman and Timo didn't hesitate. They had to help him. Iman gestured softly for the boy to come out, calming him with a reassuring expression. "Just stay quiet and you'll be fine." The boy was still trembling, unsure if he could trust them. Then Emin crouched and slowly waved his hand in front of a nearby zombie's face, showing the boy firsthand that these creatures wouldn't react unless they heard something. Seeing that the child finally gathered his courage and began to step forward slowly, something went terribly wrong. From a dark corner they hadn't noticed, a zombie suddenly lunged out without warning, letting out a chilling screech like a psychopathic alarm clock signaling feeding time. In an instant, all the building's zombies jolted awake. The moment they sensed the living, they lost control, racing toward the trio like rabid animals. Emon, Timo, and the boy spun around and ran. But the hallway ahead was a dead end. With no time to lose, Emon smashed the nearby fire hose cabinet, grabbed the extinguisher inside, and unleashed a cloud of white powder into the corridor. The hallway instantly filled with a thick, blinding dust. The zombies, unable to see or locate their target, froze in confusion. Taking advantage of the chaos, Emon seized a fire axe and led their escape, cutting through any undead blocking their path, moving swiftly with the other two close behind, using the dust cloud as cover. But the dust didn't last long. The air cleared, the zombies regained their senses, caught their scent, and charged after them with renewed frenzy. At the last possible second, the three reached Emon's apartment door. They slammed it shut, leaving the horde right behind them. Inside, Emon searched desperately, but neither his wife nor his daughter was anywhere to be found. All that remained was a large bloodstain on the floor. A chilling dread seized Emon's heart. He turned towards the door, determined to go back out and keep searching no matter what, but Timo stopped him. Outside was infested with zombies. Exiting now would be a suicide mission. Emon was overwhelmed by helpless worry until the boy suddenly spoke. He said that during the zombie attack in the apartment, he saw Emon's wife and daughter on the 3rd floor. That gave Emon a glimmer of hope. Meanwhile, Emon's wife, Cheryl, was desperately evading a zombie chasing her through the building. In the earlier chaos, she had been separated from her daughter and was fighting for her life. But fortunately, a kind young couple had rescued her, finding her hiding alone. While helping her escape, they even ran into the building's police chief, who was also trying to survive. Back on Eamon's side, the hallway was silent again, so he and the others decided it was time to move. They had to find Cheryl and their daughter. As they crept through the building, the boy suddenly caught sight of his own mother, passing quickly behind them. Without a word, he dashed after her. Timo noticed and ran after him, leaving Emon standing there confused and alone. When the boy finally caught up with his mother, he was devastated. She lay on the floor, writhing in pain. It was obvious she had been infected. Timo arrived just in time to see what was happening. He quickly grabbed the boy, pulling him away and slamming the door shut behind them, trapping the woman, now turning inside. The two slipped into another room to hide, but the boy was in shock, completely distraught. He couldn't accept the truth and began to panic, fearing any noise would attract more zombies. Timo had no choice but to cover the boy's mouth and hold him tightly until he finally calmed down. After learning that the boy's father was also missing and possibly dead, Timo made him a promise. He would do everything he could to help find his father. Meanwhile, Cheryl had barely survived another zombie attack, but was gravely wounded. Before she could catch her breath, she noticed a shadow slowly approaching. Thinking it was another zombie, she braced herself for the worst, only to realize it was Emin. Relief flooded her face. Her husband was alive. But they barely had a second to reconnect before the chilling sound of more zombies echoed down the hallway. Emin quickly scooped up Cheryl and helped her limp to safety. They found a nearby room to hide in, and as Emin closed the door behind them, a group of zombies began pounding on it. He shoved a sofa against the entrance to barricade it, then hurried to treat Cheryl's wounds as best he could. While he tended her, Cheryl told him what had happened during the chaos and that their daughter had been separated from her. Worse, their little girl was born mute. She couldn't scream or call for help. That fact only deepened Cheryl's worry. Emin decided to leave Cheryl in the room and go search for their daughter on his own. But outside, the zombie horde was growing. The door shook, the sofa barely held, and it was clear it would be breached any moment. Just then, Timo, hiding in the next room, heard Emin's voice through the walls. Instantly, he knew his friend was in trouble. Without a second thought, Timo risked everything to help. After all, in prison, if not for Emin looking out for him, he could have lost more than just his freedom. He told the boy to stay put, promising he'd reunite with Emin as soon as he could. Then Timo slipped out into danger, grabbed an iron bar, and began banging it as loudly as he could to draw the zombies away from Emin and Cheryl. The plan worked. Soon a wave of undead charged straight at him. Without hesitation, Timo turned and ran, but his escape route was completely blocked by zombies. To protect his friend and the child, Emin ordered Cheryl and their daughter into a nearby corner and bravely faced the oncoming horde on his own. With gunfire, he lured the zombies down the stairs to buy time for his family to flee. But soon, Emin found himself trapped in a dead end. Realizing there was no way out, he decided to make a stand. A burst of gunfire quickly wiped out a large group of zombies, but when another wave approached, he hastily reloaded, steeling himself for the battle ahead. He fought with everything he had, determined to delay the undead for his loved ones. After emptying his rifle, Emin drew his pistol. His marksmanship and agility let him take down zombie after zombie with deadly precision. But soon, the pistol ran dry, and his hallway filled with bodies, yet more zombies kept coming. Desperate, Emin drew his hidden combat knife and engaged in a brutal hand-to-hand fight. After what felt like an eternity of combat, his strength was nearly gone. When he finally dispatched the zombies before him, he turned to see even more charging. At that point, he had no choice but to retreat. Emin made his way to the rooftop, but a few zombies followed close behind. Though unarmed, he continued fighting fiercely until, in the chaos, one sneaked up behind him and bit him in the waist. Despite the unbearable pain, he killed the last zombie in his path. What he didn't know, however, was that while he fought for his life, Cheryl and their daughter had been found by the police chief. Still furious over his son having been zombified and killed by Emin, the chief intended to make Emin feel the pain of losing his family. Despite Cheryl's repeated pleas, explaining that her son had already turned, the chief refused to let them go. In desperation, the little girl shone her flashlight at the chief, giving Cheryl the chance to strike. In the ensuing struggle, Cheryl fought fiercely as any mother would to protect her daughter. She managed to snatch the chief's gun and turn the tables. However, when the girl tried to escape the danger, she was attacked again, this time by 2 zombies in her path. After narrowly dodging their lunges, the girl tried to run but tripped and fell. The zombies closed in, growling and snapping. Just when it seemed all hope was lost, Emon appeared with a heavy iron bar and impaled the zombies. Terrified, the girl dashed into a narrow gap to hide, only to find another zombie lurking inside. Emon, too large to fit through the opening, signaled to his daughter to try to squeeze out on her own. With her father cheering her on, she waited for the perfect moment when the zombie wasn't looking and dashed out. Father and daughter embraced, unaware that another zombie was closing in behind them. At the last second, Cheryl arrived just in time to shoot and kill it, saving her family once more. After all they'd been through, separated by life and death, they finally reunited, made their way hurriedly through the basement, and reached the exit. It was then that Emon confessed he'd been bitten by a zombie. To avoid hurting his wife and daughter, he had no choice but to stay behind. He mentioned that outside there was a prison transport vehicle they could drive to the survivor camp. Cheryl froze for a moment, her mind struggling to grasp reality. She clung to hope that maybe the camp had a way to treat him. After everything they'd endured, now that they were finally together again, she didn't want her husband to leave them once more. But Emon knew the truth. The virus spread too fast, and even if the camp had a vaccine, it wouldn't arrive in time. The harsh reality weighed heavily on both of them, and Cheryl reluctantly accepted the grim situation. Through tears, their daughter hugged Emon and said goodbye. Then, with heavy hearts, they left the basement, climbed into the prison transport vehicle, and drove away. Soon Emon's mind began to cloud, and he lost control of his own thoughts. Yet in his final moments, before fully turning, he still clutched tightly to the family portrait his daughter had drawn. As the vehicle rolled through the deserted streets, tension was palpable. Cheryl and their daughter exchanged worried glances, knowing that every second counted. But Emon, fighting the change already taking hold, continued to hold on to the last symbol of their love.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.